That's right. It is time for another edition of
Know Your Troll.
Know Your Troll. If you are new to this channel or new to this video series, this is a video series where I find a collection of the world's greatest stupidity in the comments section on YouTube and not only monetize those people's stupidity, but remind my viewers that we should all take time now and again and realize just how stupid the average person is, and then realize that half of them are dumber than that. This first one is a real gem. Mr. Andy Malcolmson was so butthurt over my Fuzz Factory video, a video that is a complete joke and not meant to be taken seriously at all, that he went and shared it in a Facebook group called Pedalboards of Doom, which is a large pedalboard group, in an attempt to recruit his own personal army to come in and help him with said trolling on my channel. This is the post that he wrote. Don't know if this has been shared here, but I'm in awe of this guy. He demos the Fuzz Factory by trying to play 80s hair metal and bashes on it. Even Zvex called him out. The guy expects us to listen to him, but lies by telling us his guitar is in tune. I've not seen a pedal demo this bad since those Gear Demo YT from back in the day when the dude did a whole 3-minute segment opening Boss promotional leaflets during a demo of the DS1. Well, Andy, thank you very much for being so abnormally butthurt over that video. Here's why I would like to thank you for that, because as soon as you shared this video, my channel benefited greatly. Way to go, dude. August AM says, damn, bro, you have thousands of dollars worth of equipment behind you, but you couldn't get a pop filter. Okay. This was on the worst Christmas gifts ever video, and let me address this. Yes, what happened was the mic gain input on the recorder was turned up. Well, it was turned up at the same level that I normally have it, but that apparently was a wee bit too loud for that much yelling. And it clipped the input a few times, particularly in the beginning, and so everybody was telling me I needed a pop filter. Well, regardless, I've started using a pop filter since then, and honestly, I don't know much of a difference between that and the rest of my videos, save for this one. But if that's what we need to do, that's what we'll need to do. So my apologies. This one comes from Beavis Butthead. He says, since Robert had the kindness not to call me out, I'm going to do it for him. Coming clean for everyone, Robert. I'm the dickhead that made that comment on Robert's personal greatest guitar players list video. Kids, don't drink too much while commenting on videos. I just watched both of Robert's videos 2 years later. After watching the first video and looking at my comment, I thought, what the F did I say that for? This is Robert's personal list. Has absolutely nothing to do with what anyone else likes or dislikes. For that, I'm sorry, Robert, for being an asshat and not using my brain before the keyboard. I have since resubbed, all while wondering what the F happened to my subscription to RGD quite a while ago without even realizing I made that effed up comment. I just stumbled across this video and thought, damn it, I'm that idiot, and I need to apologize to Robert. Keep up the great videos. Thank you very much. I'll be quite honest with you. I have no idea what it is you're referring to, but I do appreciate the apology. So, if you, what I will tip my hat to you, because it's very, very rare that somebody actually, does seem to man up and own up to their mistakes, whatever it may have been, and apologize for it. So, no, all good here, dude. Black F90 says, I just noticed that you have an acoustic B450 bass amp. Seemed interesting to me because I have an acoustic AG15 acoustic guitar amp, and very few people are talking about this brand. Could you talk about it? I didn't know this brand of amps until 2 years ago when I found mine in a pawn shop. I use for practice. It's very good. The acoustic brand, the history behind it, of course, they were really, really popular back in the late 60s and 70s, primarily making bass amps. Like just about all those old Zeppelin records, that was John Paul Jones playing through an acoustic bass amp on just about everything. Same with the Doors. I know used them quite a bit among a lot of rock bands in that era. Acoustic bass amplifiers were real popular. I think they were probably the only amp brand back then that actually offered a lifetime warranty. And I'm wondering if that's not what actually did them in, because they went out of business here by probably the late 70s, early 80s. You can still find some of the old vintage ones floating around out there on the vintage market. I'm wondering if they didn't have to service too many lifetime warranty claims, and that's not what put them under. Fast forward to about the mid 2000s or so, and Guitar Center actually bought the brand name and resurrected it, and now they are the exclusive dealer to that brand, as they now own it. So, and they've, they actually produce pretty good amplifiers. Now they make, of course, the bass amps again, acoustic guitar amplifiers, and I actually own a couple of those as well. They also have a line of electric guitar amps. Those I've not been overly impressed with. But the acoustic amps I think sound great. The bass amplifiers I think sound really, really good. I like both of those quite a bit, and I own both of them. So, and that's what they're designed to be. They're designed to be, affordable, good quality amplifiers, more amplifier for your money, whatever price point you're talking about, than you would get with another brand. Calibrazix 750. So basically a video about a bunch of guitar-related crap that is in fact a thinly veiled attempt to push another bunch of guitar-related crap that Chunky Bloke thinks is okay, probably because he is getting some kickback to promote it. Let me start by saying this actually turned into a pretty long, lengthy thread, and my first response to this guy was, of course, sorry about your penis. That went on to him accusing me of not being able to take criticism, etc., etc. And I take criticism just fine, even when it's negative and even when I don't like hearing it. Calling people names and clearly intentionally saying things, leaving insulting comments, that is not criticism. That is disrespect. Those comments, chances are I'm going to fire back. As far as any products that may be featured on any of my videos, I rarely get a kickback for any of them. Rarely. I've had a few companies that have approached me and have paid me to help promote their products. They paid me very, very nominal fees at best. And even if they were paying me a lot more than that, like a lot of other YouTube creators do benefit from, it's called earning a living, and there's nothing wrong with it. Darkstar says, just checking this video out after watching your loudest amp video. Just found your channel. Your mic and vocal sounds fine. Who the F told you to get a pop filter? Again, that goes back to the worst Christmas gifts ever video. That's the only video I've ever had that complaint about. So, and like I said, there was probably a bit too much yelling for where the gains were set. But no, thank you very much for checking out my channel. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Hope you stick around, and welcome to the family. Dead Shred 999 says a quality EQ pedal would fix some of the problems you disliked on the Laney and Bagheera especially. I think you're way off on the Blackstar ID Core Series amps. I have had several and thought I could get better, but always came back to Blackstar. I've been a guitarist for 35 years, and I have done studio work with my Blackstar amps. I think you're just a tube snob and don't like solid-state amps. I agree on most of your other choices, though. I also agree on Line 6 amps, but their pod systems were/are fantastic sounding from my experiences. The thing with an EQ pedal is, an EQ pedal has a lot of uses. They're great for boosts. They're great for boosting specific frequencies. For example, like with the, if you need to boost a mids or something for a guitar solo. They have a lot of great uses. However, I don't think that using an EQ to fix the sound of an amp or a pedal that I don't like is one of them. To me, it just seems a little redundant. In regards to the part of your comment where you said I think you're just a tube snob, not true. I actually do enjoy quite a few solid-state amplifiers, and just recently did a video on greatest solid-state amplifiers ever, and in that video there were several amps mentioned that I really, really like. So no, I don't. Do I prefer tubes? Yeah, of course I do. But that doesn't mean that I hate anything that's not tube. So there's a lot of non-tube amplifiers and non-tube gear out there that I very, very much enjoy. This is on the Greatest Guitar Tones Ever video. This one was from DW17. He says, I'm really happy you recognize Motley Crue and with John Corabi. Seriously underrated album, misunderstood as a killer track, and there are plenty more where that came from. Also, mad respect for your mention of the No More Tears solo. My first band was supposed to play that song. I was the singer, but it never got into our rehearsal nights before we broke up. However, I still sang it in the car on the way to practice and melted every time that solo ignited the air. My favorite guitar sound that inspired me to play guitar was Slash on Appetite for Destruction. Welcome to the Jungle intro, Mr. Brownstone riff, Sweet Child of Mine intro and solo, My Michelle intro, Out to Get Me, etc., etc. Some of the greatest sounding song bits my ears have ever heard. Yeah, I agree with you about the Motley Crue self-titled album. It is criminally underrated, and although I understand why, it's kind of a shame that Motley Crue doesn't recognize that record today. You know, and I understand why. You know, it's kind of be a slap in the face to Vince if they did. Vince Neil, that is. So, you know, I understand it. But, you know, for those of us, especially for those of us that were around when that record came out and, you know, were mind blown by it at the time, you know, it was a great record then. It's a great record now. Still one of the best sounding guitar tones I've ever heard. You know, as far as Appetite for Destruction, you know, that was one of the soundtracks of my youth. I remember being on family vacation with my family when I was about, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, something like that. Maybe not even that old. Let's see, that album came out in 87. So I think it was probably 9-ish. And it was I think a 10-day vacation. We were driving, you know, it was a lot of road tripping in between stops. And, you know, with me and my parents and my sister, and I had that cassette tape and Skid Row's self-titled album. So I guess it must have been later because that album came out 88 or 89. But I had those two cassette tapes and my Walkman and a supply of batteries to get me by for 10 days. And up and down, you know, the roads through the mountains of the Southwest, I think we were vacationing. I was, I would listen to one of those tapes, one of those albums, front to back, and then pull it out and put the other one in, and do the exact same thing. Listen to it front to back, and lather, rinse, repeat. You know, for 10 days on the road in the backseat of a minivan. And I loved every minute of it. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for that record. And I agree with you. All those are great songs that are on there. And, all the guitar tones on there I thought sounded really, really good. But there are a few places on there where it kind of stands out a little thin to me. Some certain rhythm sections here and there that, of course, I did notice it then when I was a kid, but, as my ear has developed, a few things I've picked out now, that doesn't make me an expert. Just, if there was a reason why I left it off that list, that would be it. Frank Forster says this guy is a bit of a D-bag. Knocking an instrument like the uke is pompous. This is the reason people don't go into shops all judgy and shit. Last time I checked, music is a pretty diverse thing. I bet this dude sits at the counter and balks at people, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to read all that. YouTube, fix your algorithm. Stop putting this clickbait in my feed. The ukulele thing and the worst Christmas gifts ever video, it was a joke. And the point being that, yes, lots of people enjoy ukuleles. And yes, lots of music has been created with them. And yes, there is nothing wrong with them. The point is that so many non-guitar players think that the guitar player in their life would love to buy a ukulele because they think it's a guitar. Mm-hmm. But a ukulele is not a guitar, and many guitar players would not actually want to receive one as a gift. That was the point of it. Oh, and by the way, I don't work in a guitar shop. I haven't worked in a guitar shop for many, many years. Not a single video on my channel has been filmed in a guitar shop. HJR says, people can't play guitar 24/7, right? Finger bands and strengtheners are very useful while 1, driving, 2, being at work, 3, watching TV, movies, etc. And since they're only like $10 and are backed by many guitarists who have gotten a hell of a lot further than you have ever gotten with guitar, then I'm going to go ahead and say they're pretty effing great as a gift for guitar players. Well, then maybe you should add them to your Christmas list. However, when I'm driving, I'm focusing on driving. When I'm working, I'm focusing on my job. And when I'm watching TV, I'm not focusing on anything except relaxing. I'm not going to deny that a lot of people have been, have gotten a lot farther with the instrument than I have. But backed by many guitarists, who? Henry66699 says, this video should have been the rough version. A lot of mistakes in it by the guitarist. He's not a bad guy, but ruins his own video. This one was on the video that I did a couple years back on the Epiphone Les Paul Custom. And admittedly, that is probably one of my worst videos. Guitar was going in and out of tune. It sounded okay, but it wasn't a very good video. You produce enough of these things, and eventually a clunker is going to come out from time to time. And me personally, I choose to leave them up just because I choose to post them even if I'm unsure how they're gonna go over, and I choose to leave them up because that's how else am I going to learn, and how else am I going to improve? So that's the reason why it's still up, and I get lambasted on that video just about quite often still to this day. Her Wandry says, so we have another bullshit list that'll miss the very best stuff ever recorded. Oh, the interwebs. Jeremy Refuse says, if you're really a quote-unquote Marshall guy, you'd have a JCM 800 2203 back there instead of a shitty JCM 900. Those amps are notoriously bad in guitar player forums. Oh boy, I don't know how many Marshall groups you're involved in, but I'm a member of a couple of them, and while the 800 are certainly the creme de la creme, the 800 and the Plexi are certainly the creme de la creme of Marshall fanatics. There are plenty of people out there who also enjoy the 900s, besides me. And besides also people like Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley and KK Downing and Glenn Tipton, among many, many others. About a month or so ago, I did a video on home studio recording rigs, and in that video, I mentioned that I had not found a cheap or a free way around virtual drums. Or to acquire virtual drums yet. So Mr. Jerry Sparks was kind enough to leave this comment. He says, try MT Power Drum Kit. It's a free download, and it works and sounds pretty solid. That's what I'm using right now, and I'm pretty satisfied. So thank you very much for the suggestion. I had not heard of that. So I'm going to look into that and see how it works for me. Thank you very much. John James says, I'm just wondering if this is comparable to the EHX Deluxe Big Muff Pie. This comment was left on the recent video that I did on the MXR double shot distortion. And, to answer your question, no, the two I don't think are even remotely similar. However, if you would like a little bit more of a comparison or something to hear it something to hear it up against, I encourage you to stay tuned to this channel very, very soon. I don't normally do this and let the cat out of the bag early. However, stay tuned because this just arrived in the mail this week. And matter of fact, I just finished doing the demo on it, so it will be up very, very soon. Juan Valdez says, why would you want Henny Itchy, whatever his name is, commenting on your vid? Dude's a creepy sociopath. You're referring to Henning Pauly, and no, he's that's not true. Henning's a really good guy. I admit I've never met him personally. I've communicated with him on Facebook a few times. He's the YouTube is what he does full time. So he's constantly demoing gear and editing video, and he's traveling a lot. And he's going to visit factories. He's a busy guy. And despite that, it's his channel. I think he just hit the 100,000 subscriber mark recently. His channel being significantly bigger than mine. I've always enjoyed his videos. Despite the I like the corny jokes and stuff that he tells. I think he's hilarious. But even if he's not everybody else's cup of tea. that said, I've reached out to him through Facebook a few times and, asked him for, some, YouTube advice, things here and there, and, asked him to critique a video or two even. And despite how busy that guy is, he has always made time. He's always found time to do it and gotten back with me, been very, very helpful to me. So, so based on my dealings with Henning Pauly, he is nothing but, top shelf human being. Jump and Run says, now do the opposite. The worst guitar tones. Love the guitar sounds of Psycho Circus. I agree with you. I actually like the Psycho Circus record quite a bit too. But regarding the rest of your comments, and I did reply back to you in the comments section on this. But I'll roast gear on my channel all day long. Let's face it, that's kind of what I do, and how my channel grew to where it is now. I got no problem making fun of gear, but gear is at the end of the day is an inanimate object. I draw the line at taking cheap shots at other guitar players or other YouTube creators or anything like that. That's where I draw the line. That's not cool. Proponent of Ancient Wisdom says, "Holy F, those fake drums just sound awful." This was on a video that I did a while back. It was a video on the Metal Zone. It was it was my first. I think that may have been my very first attempt at at a track demo of any kind. It was just guitar and drums, and the drums on that track were actually the Beat Buddy Mini, which is a great pedal, but for those purposes, it's probably not the best thing around. However, that's what I had available to me at the time, and with that one, the way the Beat Buddy Mini works, you go to the genre, you go to the you got a selection of 3 or 4 or 5 different drum beats within that genre. You select the tempo and off you go. So yes, you are correct. The drums in that track did not sound very good at all. However, that was one of my earliest mixes, and full track demos that I ever recorded. Maybe even my first one, to be honest. So I've gone back and listened. I went back and listened to it after you left this comment, and I was, I cringed a bit as well. But I've talked about this a lot on this channel. When you're learning recording, your first, your earliest mixes are supposed to suck. That's part of it. That's how you learn. So Razor Khan says, unbelievable, man. Whitesnake's self-titled album was all John Sykes. How could you not know that? He played Gibson Les Paul Custom with dirty fingered pickups. Amp was Marshall. Bro, this is embarrassing. You need to do minimum research before giving wrong info. I am upset because Sykes is one of my favorite guitarists. You actually are correct, sir. And when I said that, that was in the Greatest Guitar Tones Ever video that was up recently, and I had gotten the Whitesnake self-titled album confused with the Slip of the Tongue album lineup, I believe. I was thinking Slip of the Tongue, which did have Adrian Vandenberg and I think Steve Vai. That was the one that one of the big ones that he played on as well. But it did have, so I got the lineups confused. But I do still stand by what I said on the Guitar Tone of the Whitesnake album, the self-titled one. And Still of the Night is one of the tracks on that record. So regardless who played on it, it sounded pretty good. Sean Vandeman says, love your reviews, brother. On a curious note, as a young, dumb grunge fan, but also many good genres of music, how you feel about the Marshall Code series of amps? I've gotten this question a lot recently, and I think I've noticed the pricing of the Code series amps coming down, and I think I think Marshall discontinued them. Their Marshall's foray into the digital modeling world has been rather disastrous for them. They didn't take off nearly as well as Marshall hoped. That said, I personally don't think that they're all that bad as far as the digital modeling stuff goes in that price range. I actually sold one to a friend of mine who he bought the 50-watt 112 combo, I believe. And this particular friend of mine is really, really picky when it comes to guitar tone. And, he's one of those guys that picks out the little teeny tiny nuances. And, on there, of course, Marshall has several different models of their own amps, the Plexi, for example. And there's a certain percussive what he said was there's a certain percussive characteristic to the tone of a plexi, and most modeling amps almost always leave that out. But he said the Marshall Code series actually has it in there. So I know they haven't been real popular, but I know a few people who own them and have very much enjoyed them. So the Indie Fam says, "How about your top guitar strings, please?" I think that this comment was left in a request for me to do a video on this topic, but and maybe one day I will, but that kind of sounds like a pretty boring video topic. I'm an Ernie Ball guy. I always have been. Ernie Ball Slinkies. I've used the hybrid Slinkies, the 9-46 set, for most things for a long time, and now I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, and I'm going to back to Super Slinkies for the 9-42 set, that is. Back to Super Slinkies for, guitars that are tuned standard or half step down, and, regular Slinkies for whole step down and drop C, and, even heavier gauges than that for the rare occasion that I tune down lower than that. So, yeah, I'm a believer in Ernie Ball Slinkies, man. That's what I've always used. I've been using them since I was a kid, and I try other strings from time to time, and there's other stuff actually out there that I do like. I like the Elixir. Believe it or not, I actually like the Elixir Polywebs on electric guitar quite a bit, but they're expensive. I like Dunlop strings quite a bit. Boomers are okay. I've not had real good luck with D'Addario stuff. Ernie Ball just been my favorites. So I keep going back to them. William Cooper says, "I'm not sure I'm putting this in the right spot, but I have a chance to get a BC Rich Mockingbird Masterpiece Series for pretty cheap. I know you're a BC Rich guy. Are the Masterpiece Series any good, or is it at the bottom end?" Most of the Masterpiece guitars that are out there were... they're pretty well made guitars. I think I want to say the bolt-on versions anyway. There's a bolt-on version, and then I think they did a neck-through version of those guitars. Though I saw pictures of them, but I've never seen one pop up on the used market. So I've heard of them out there, but they just don't come up. The bolt-on neck variety, however, is much more common, and I'm assuming that's probably what you've run into. They are, they're well built. The necks on them are, they play pretty well. If you don't mind bolt-on necks, the electronics that come in them are pretty cheap. So, be prepared for that. You might want to swap pickups on them, but beyond that, no, they're fine. They were made to. I think that, like I said, the Mockingbirds I think were $4.99 brand. When they were out, that's what they sold for brand new. Now they're on the used market. They're usually in the $200 to $300 range, I think. And we need to save this gem for last.
Troll.
He should close the channel. 1 like, 4 dislikes. Firewood. That reply is laughable, etc., etc., etc. 20 plus trolling comments on my channel over the course of just a few hours. Definitely somebody that masturbates excessively. So, there we have it. Thank you very much for hanging in there with me through this episode of No Ear Troll. Please consider hitting the subscribe button to this channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the bell right next to it. Leave me a comment down below, and any pertinent links will be listed in the description as always. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.